The big exclusive that we're tracking for you. ET now has learned that the Department of Telecommunications has issued a notice to telecom operators to pay their adjusted gross revenue dues as directed by the Supreme Court within 3 months. My colleague Nayantara Rai helping us with perspective and implications of this for telcos. Dire, of course. Nayantara, take it away.
This is an ET Now exclusive where we understand the Department of Telecommunications on 13th of November has sent instructions to all telecom companies to pay up as per the Supreme Court's 24th October verdict on AGR. It's interesting that the DoT has shot off this letter demanding the payment as well as requisite documents to show compliance 24 hours after Vodafone's global CEO has said the Indian operations are on the brink of a collapse, has gonged the alarm bells and talked about how Vodafone will not be investing anymore in the country, primarily due to the AGR issue. Remember, we have seen a war path, this issue becoming a massive bone of contention between Reliance Jio on one side and Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea on the other. Reliance Jio, led by Mukesh Ambani, has said that the companies must pay up. The government has no business in interference. There has been commercial decisions the telecom companies take as far as tariffs go. On the other side, Bharti Airtel and Vodafone Idea talk about how such a payment, as being talked about, will lead to the death of the sector. So it's very interesting. Did the DoT take objection to what it is the global Vodafone CEO had to say, or is it a mere coincidence that the instruction has come within 24 hours?
Rajan Matthews also joining us on this. Rajan, good morning. This is an incredibly serious situation for the telecom industry, particularly, with Vodafone pretty much Vodafone Idea pretty much saying that this is the last leg really for the company on the back of this. What are you making of the latest directive that's coming in from the DoT?
So you're absolutely correct in saying that this is a critical future for the industry. Almost the same situation the industry found itself in 1999, where a similar situation of upfront payments voluntarily made by companies, no less, was changed around to a revenue share in the interest of companies.
Rajan, so sorry, we've got you on a bad line. We're just going to come back to you because we do want to hear your comments on this. We're just going to try and reconnect that line there with Rajan Matthews. But essentially, let me just, also take you through the quote coming in from the Vodafone CEO, saying that it's been a very challenging situation for a very long time. Financially, there's been a heavy burden through unsupportive regulation, excessive taxes, and on top of it, we've gotten a negative Supreme Court decision. It's fair to say it's a very critical situation. Remember his earlier comments also not taken so well by the DoT. He's sort of come out and said, okay, they were misquoted. But, the reality of it is that it's a grim situation in India. They've had a loss of close to 2 billion in the first half of the year, majorly due to India. And the situation has been challenging for a long time. They're not committing any more equity to India. Vodafone CEO saying India has contributed zero value to the company's share price. And those are really important statements coming in from the Vodafone CEO. Remember, we've got the two partners here, and even Birla, they're not really looking at this point, from what we've understood, to really put more money in at this point, given the kind of financial stress that they are witnessing. Let's go back across to Rajan. Rajan, I'd like you to just complete that point. You were talking to us about the latest directive from the DoT and the kind of hammer blow this is going to be for some of those telcos.
The notice that we have received from the DoT is a logical one, given the position that the DoT took with the Supreme Court. They won that contested point. And therefore, the next point is really, if I were to give an analogy, it's like asking you to file your income tax returns. That is per the license condition. Please file most up-to-date information, and that is required. And then the DoT then takes a look at your computations and decides if it is all right. So that is a normal protocol and in context of the license. However, the principal point that we are contesting is that, yes, the Supreme Court has affirmed the amount of money, in a sense, owed to the government. But the government, as debtor and creditor relationship, is well within its rights to determine how much it wants to collect and the collectability of the amounts at risk. Please understand that there are about 7 or 8 companies that have either gone bankrupt, exited the country, or are in NCLT. Question is, obviously, it has got to make some accommodation in terms of the collectability of those amounts. So the point is, going forward, what does the government intend to do in order to collect what it is now claiming to be owed to it? And that's the point at which we are. The Committee of Secretaries is there, and we believe that it's within their ambit to decide how the industry is going to go forward, given all of these claims that are now being imposed on the industry. And I think that's the point we have to discuss and take forward.
You know, Rajan, there was because so many points of view have been thrown around ever since that AGR verdict was first announced. You know, there was a point of view that it's okay if it remains a duopoly situation, and if even a Vodafone Idea has to crumble under the weight of this. But you know, the other stakeholders, whether it be the government, Jio, all seem to suggest that it's a situation that could very well function. What do you make of that?
I really don't think that that is a very appropriate position to take when you look globally on the basis of both academic and empirical evidence. You look internationally, and most competitive markets require at least 3 to 4 operators of adequate size, scope, and scale to be able to provide a truly competitive landscape. So countries try to ensure that that type of a landscape exists. So I think going to a duopoly is headed in the wrong direction. So I think the government should definitely look at this notion of how many healthy players do you have. Please look at what the taxpayer, that is you and me today, provide to BSNL and MTNL. This is the government's largesse to the BSNL as part of propping up a competitive landscape. So I'm surprised that people are now debating the amount of relief that should come to the industry. The industry is already receiving relief through massive amounts of infusion of money through BSNL and MTNL. One must ask why. If one believes in a duopoly, then those tax dollars don't make any sense going to BSNL and MTNL.
You know, we've been debating this, but the fact of the matter seems to be, as is further validated by the Supreme Court verdict, that the government doesn't look like it wants to step away from this or negotiate in any way the kind of terms for payments. In that context, then, is it now inevitable that we might see the end of a Vodafone Idea, a Vodafone perhaps looking seriously at exiting India?
I think we must take seriously the comments made by the 2 promoter companies, that is Vodafone and Idea, and say that, look, given the amounts of money that are further required to be invested, the rates of return on that invested money make no sense. Please remember that these folks are also guardians of the investors, that is public money that has been invested in these companies. So it's not just a question of promoters looking after their own purse, but it's the exchequer and the public interest that is to be looked at. So yes, we must take seriously those comments made by the promoters, and we must ask the larger question, is this in the best interest of the nation, the country, and the citizens, and the folks who are consuming the service? And I think if you ask that question in the larger context, there's every reason for the government to step in and make the industry a healthy one going forward, given, you know, the Digital India, connect the rural, connect every citizen with a smartphone, give them access to the internet, because the outcomes to the country and to the citizens are so great. So I think that should be the context in which we really look at relief to the industry.
All right, Rajan, appreciate your time. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. Well, the Economic Times today is carrying a very interesting story. It's the Birla Group which is saying, look, we will not infuse any more capital. It's a source-based story. It's not something which could be called as an official comment. It's a completely source-based story. Birlas may let Voda Idea Phone go insolvent if government does not decide to help. The total collective net debt, I'm talking about not gross, the net debt of the telecom space is about $28 billion. And the decision, even though has been a huge setback for the telecom sector, the AGR decision, it also in a sense exposes that how complex the Indian judicial system is. This case has been on from 2003 and the decision has come in 2019 with an additional charge of penalty. and looking at the current state of Indian telecom sector, can you really afford the sector, a big company like Vodafone and Idea going belly up and Airtel really suffering because of the complexity and because of the Indian telecom sector? So that's where we are right now, and it may be sorry, sad, unfortunate, but true. That's the state of the Indian telecom sector, which in a sense has not really created a lot of wealth for investors and promoters and global investors who've invested in them. Let's take a break. When we come back, more news and analysis.